All right, for the past few years, it's felt like AI has been all about hype, right? Just endless promises. But as we're heading into 2026, everything is starting to shift. The time for just talking about AI, that's over. Now it's all about making it actually work, reliably, profitably, and at a massive scale. The execution era has officially arrived.
I mean, we all saw it, right? That first big race was all about building the biggest, baddest large language models. It was just a competition of sheer brute force. But now, well, the dust is kind of settling, and a totally new, much more strategic race is kicking off. So the question isn't how big can we make it anymore? It's something way, way more interesting.
And this really breaks down that shift perfectly. We're leaving what you could call the hype era, which was all about bigger models, novelty, and a ton of speculative buzz. And we're entering the execution era. From 2026 onward, the game is all about smarter systems that deliver actual, real-world return on investment. It's about being strategic, being efficient, and building something that lasts.
Okay, so what does this new playbook actually look like? Well, it all starts with a huge mental shift. We've got to stop thinking about AI as just a single tool and start seeing it as a complete, intelligent, orchestrated system.
Think about it like this. That first wave, it was totally dominated by standalone chatbots, right? You ask a question, you get an answer. Super cool, but also pretty isolated. This next phase is all about integrated systems, where you have multiple, specialized AIs all working together, like a team, to solve really complex problems. We're literally going from a cool gadget to the absolute core infrastructure of business.
And the heart of this new playbook? It's a concept called Agentic AI. Now, this is not just a smarter chatbot, no way. These are autonomous systems. They don't just respond to you, they actually operate. They can take a complex goal, figure out a plan, hand off tasks to other specialized AIs, and then learn from the whole thing. It is a huge, huge leap forward.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, you can think of it like a four-step loop. First, the system reasons through a complex problem. Then, it comes up with a multi-step plan to tackle it. The cool part is next. It delegates each one of those steps to the best AI for the job. It might send one task to a data analysis model, another to a code-writing agent, and a third to an image generator. And finally, and this is key, it learns from the outcome, so it gets smarter and more efficient every single time.
Now, this huge evolution in software is creating a massive problem on the hardware side. I mean, the great GPU shortage of 2025 proved that you can't just keep throwing more and more raw power at the problem. It's just not sustainable. So the entire hardware strategy is being forced to make a major pivot.
And here's what that pivot looks like. The old way was to scale up, just building bigger, more powerful, do-it-all chips, kind of like a giant Swiss Army knife. The new strategy is to scale out. This means creating this whole ecosystem of smarter, more efficient, specialized chips that are designed for very specific tasks. Think of it less like one giant hammer and more like a full toolkit. It's a total shift from brute force to surgical precision.
And here's the really crucial point. The biggest challenge isn't just training these massive models anymore. The real game, the real bottleneck, is running them efficiently in millions of real-world situations. That's a process called inference. And let me tell you, making inference faster and cheaper, that is the new multi-trillion-dollar prize, and it's what's driving some of the biggest deals we've ever seen in tech.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory. The biggest players in tech, they are already placing massive bets on this new reality. They're making these huge strategic deals, not just to dominate the market, but to lock down specific critical pieces of this new AI puzzle.
Need an example? How about this? Nvidia's jaw-dropping $20 billion deal with a specialized chip company called Grok. And look, that's not just a big number. It's basically a giant flashing signpost for the entire industry, pointing exactly where the really smart money is going.
But here's where it gets really clever. Nvidia didn't actually buy Grok. Nope, they licensed its technology for that $20 billion. And this was an absolutely brilliant move. Why? Well, it gets them Grok's incredible engineering talent and all their cutting-edge IP for inference-optimized chips, all while neatly sidestepping a massive headache with antitrust regulators. It was a surgical strike to secure their spot in the future of the AI factory economy.
At the same time, another tech giant made a move that was just as strategic, but in a completely different direction. We're talking about Apple. Now, you know Apple, they are famous for building everything themselves, in-house, but they made a surprising call. For the next generation of Siri, getting to market fast was more important than building their own AI models from the ground up.
And you can see their thinking laid out right here. They basically went shopping. They looked at potential partners like Anthropic and Google, and in the end, they went with Google's Gemini model. The price tag? $1 billion a year to secure some of the best AI on the planet. It was a super pragmatic decision to get them back in the race, and fast. It just goes to show you, even for a company like Apple, sometimes it's smarter to partner up than to build it all yourself.
So as these incredibly powerful new systems get deployed, the entire landscape just changes. AI is officially moving out of the research lab and straight into the core of our global economy. And, as you can imagine, that brings a whole new set of massive challenges to the table, especially around infrastructure and governance.
So what's keeping executives up at night in 2026? Well, a few big things. First, securing all this data for the long haul against future threats, which means post-quantum cryptography. Next, actually bringing AI into the physical world through robotics and automation. Then there's multi-cloud resilience, making sure your whole operation doesn't collapse if one provider has an issue. And the big one, finding enough new energy sources to power these massive AI factories.
And all of these priorities, they all roll up into one super critical new concept: AI sovereignty. So what is that? At its core, it's the ability for an organization, or even a whole nation, to govern its own AI systems, its own data, and its own infrastructure, without being totally dependent on some external company or country. It's about being in control of your own destiny.
And if you think that sounds a little abstract, check out the data. A recent IBM study found that a staggering 93% of enterprise executives now see AI sovereignty as mission critical. So yeah, this is not some niche think tank idea anymore. It's become a core business strategy for survival in this new execution era.
And really, to bring this all home, a quote from the report this entire analysis is based on just nails it. It says, "This moment represents a transition from the AI hype era to the AI execution era." It's a perfect summary. It's not about what AI could do someday anymore. It's about what it is doing right now, today.
Which, of course, leaves us with the big final question. We're in a new era of intense competition, where real-world results are all that matter. And that means there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. The battle lines are being drawn as we speak, so you have to wonder, who is going to build the future, and who is simply going to be acquired by it?